Thank you. Yeah, all right, let's get that out of the way right now. I was expecting some type of entrance music. At least maybe a smoke machine, something, some pyrotechnics, but
It happened.
that's okay. It's all right. How's everyone doing today? Doing all right?
Yeah.
Just trying to see how much leeway I've got here before. Cool. Yeah. So my name's Austin Aries. I have been a professional wrestler for 18 years. I also stopped eating meat 18 years ago, and I went completely plant-based, giving up the dairy and the eggs about 7 years ago. I'm used to talking in front of large groups of people. I usually don't have as much clothes on, so it's a little uncomfortable for me, but probably much more comfortable for you guys if I was actually up here in my spandex right now. But why am I up here, I guess is a good question. You know, when I started my plant-based journey 18 years ago, when I started my pro wrestling career, you know, I never realized that both of those things would give me an opportunity to help change people's lives. And you know, as a pro wrestler, we get to go and entertain people and help them forget about their problems for 2-3 hours at a time. What I've realized is that platform now has given me an opportunity to help people change and fix their problems. And it all really starts to me with the food we eat. Let me go back to where I grew up. I grew up in Wisconsin. Anybody been to Wisconsin? No, not everyone had just been there. Not from there, but just even just at one time. Nobody. Okay. Yes, cheese. They poured cheese on our heads to support our football team. The Milwaukee Brewers, the 7th inning stretch, they have a sausage race around the field. Guys dress up as sausages and they race each other around the field, and we root on our favorite sausage. And then, of course, the basketball team is the Milwaukee Bucks, which are named after deer, which every hunting season I had to see on top of station wagons. So to say I grew up in an environment where veganism was rampant would be a big lie. I don't think I knew anybody when I grew up who was vegetarian, much less vegan. And really the culture I grew up in was all about meat and dairy. And my grandparents had a farm, you know, and in my book, I talk about the seeds that were planted for me growing up that a lot of us oppress because they make it easy for us to not think about things and to disconnect those dots. Once they're connected, we can disconnect them and put our head back in the sand. So one of the early seeds for me was at my grandparents' farm, and I was feeding grass to the cow. And I was eating grass and licking my hand, and we had a moment. Kind of like I'm looking in your eyes right now. Right? You feel it? There's like a moment there. You realize, oh, there's something going on. I'm not sure what it is, but there was something going on there. And I realized that this is a living creature. It thinks, it feels, it has emotion. I may not be able to communicate with it, but that's a living being. And I had that connection and ate the grass and licked my hand, and it was fun. I was about 8 years old. And then it was dinner time. Well, we were grilling out, so you can imagine a smorgasbord of hamburgers and bratwurst and sausages, and for that moment I made the correlation between the connection I just had and now what I was going to sit down to eat. But like a lot of us at that age, we do what we're told, we eat what's on our plate if we want dessert. I mean, because who could pass up some sugary cow's milk? But that was an early seed that was planted for me. And as I grew up, I did what everyone else did. You go to school to get good grades, so that you can go to college to then get a good job, so that you can hop on the consumer slave wheel, and, you know, hamster wheel, and run on it as long as you can to hopefully buy back 10 years of your life at the end. And that was the plan that was set out in front of me, but it didn't really make much sense. So I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just knew what I didn't want to be, and I didn't want to be like everybody who was around me because it just all seemed miserable. And again, I grew up in a lower middle class Midwest family, and the way I grew up wasn't much different. The way I ate wasn't much different than everybody else around me. But this time, everything was microwavable foods, right? Convenience food, mac and cheese, pizzas, burgers. I mean, this is what it was. So I went off to college to play baseball, and realized that I had to start getting in shape, because really I realized growing up no one really ever taught me about nutrition much. I mean, we had nutrition class a semester here and there, and you got the same regurgitated information over and over again. Milk for calcium for your bones, you know, meat for protein. Oh, eat some vegetables. Vegetables and fruits are good. But the importance was never really placed on it. So I got to college, and I did the old freshman 15 plus maybe another 10 or so, because of course you're eating the cafeteria food. And I mean, listen, I'm paying these people to educate me and to feed me. They wouldn't knowingly like feed me bad food, right? I mean, of course not. They care about me. So that's why I was ladling chili on top of these, grilled cheese sandwiches, like one of my favorite delicacies of the cafeteria. But as I got a little money in my pocket, I could splurge and eat Domino's, and on my way back and forth to $4, all I could drink, could stop at Arby's and get a roast beef or hot ham and cheese. And does this sound pretty typical to a lot of people in here that grew up non-vegans? I'm going to ask right now, how many people in here are plant-based? Nice. How many people are in their first year of that journey? Yeah. Let's see, and that's cool. Yeah. As I've been starting to do this, is every time I come back places, I see more and more of those hands being raised, and that's another reason why I'm up here. I did the college thing and quickly realized it wasn't really for me. I couldn't think of what I want to do for the rest of my life, and what it was probably wasn't going to need a degree, because I don't want to be on that hamster wheel, that corporate hamster wheel, chasing all these things that they tell us we need to be happy. And I'm going to say this a few times, and I'm going to say it here. I firmly believe that, unfortunately, in this society that we've built around capitalism and money and business, that the key to being good business is having unhealthy, unhappy, and unsafe people. And if people feel unhappy and unsafe, and it's really easy to feel those ways when you're not healthy, that's the perfect corporate consumer. Because you will buy things to feel those things. You will buy things to feel safe. You'll buy things to feel happy. You'll buy things to be healthy. So I dropped out of college, and I had to find myself. So I started doing some exploring. I got out of my bubble of the Midwest, and I started doing some traveling. And I started meeting some people that grew up differently than me, had different mindsets, expanded my horizons. And one of these guys said to me, red meat and pork's really not good for you. Well, what do you mean? I mean, I know cake's not good for me. Well, too much cake's not good for me. What do you mean red meat? Like, what do you mean? Like, burgers aren't good for me, right? But that was when the seed was planted. And as I started to look at that fact, as I started my journey in pro wrestling about a year later, now I had to get in the gym and I had to get muscles, Yes, I know. I'm a little undersized. Somebody saying, he doesn't look big enough to be a wrestler. But he looks too big to be vegan. I'm very confused right now. I'm this walking oxymoron. Somehow I'm doing both successfully, so it can be done. But in this journey, I knew I had to put some muscle on. So of course, if you got to put muscle on, you need protein. Of course, protein, chicken breast, duh. Like everyone knows that's where you get protein, chicken breast. So here was the tipping point for me. All these seeds have been planted, and now I'm a month or two in my pro wrestling career, and I'm living on my buddy's couch. I'm giving plasma twice a week so I could make an extra $60 to help pay my dues and making this happen. So I didn't have a lot of money, and like a lot of people, the one thing that's not fixed every month is our food costs, right? Rent's fixed, insurance fixed, all these bills are fixed. And this is a point my mother brought up, which I think is very valid. So why people take whatever's left over and that's what they use for food? Because they've been told like that's really like the least important thing that we do, when actually it's probably the most important thing we do. So with my $3 or $4, I bought the biggest bag of chicken breasts I could find, and it was cooking them up. And it's when all these seeds and the reality of what this was and what I'd seen, like the corporate slaughterhouse I drove past in Texas, the information I started learning about, red meat and pork really wasn't good for me. Oh, and as I keep looking, like, a lot of this stuff isn't good for me. I made a decision that I was done. And that was my moment, and that was the start of my journey, right? And everyone asks me, like, is it hard? And I tell people, the hardest part is deciding that what you put in your body, what you eat, goes from like the least important thing that you think about to the most important thing. When you put that on the top of your priority list, now your resources, your time, your money, your energy, that's not a big deal to spend on the things that are most important to you. Because people say, oh, it's too expensive. Well, it's not too expensive. Not if you want to put the work in, but people want convenient food. So if someone else is going to do the work for you, then it is expensive. But if you're willing to put your resources to the things that matter the most. So why isn't our food choice what matters the most? Because really, it's the foundation, the building blocks of everything that we're going to do. Our career, our job, our family. It's all built on our health. But maybe we don't have health. All those things that we've been trying to obtain, the car, the promotion, the house, those things immediately are not important. Those things immediately go to the end of your priority list, and the first thing is I need to get healthy, right? So why we set up to fail from day one and wait till we're behind the 8 ball to try to get healthy? So I started my journey, and what I started to realize is I started peeling back layers, and it was making me angry. I've got a bit of an attitude problem. If you Google me, don't believe everything you read. Sometimes you got to ruffle some synthetic feathers if you want to. I got a bunch of bad jokes. It's the proofs in the chia pudding, people. I'm telling you. But so as I learned these things, I started really getting angry because I realized again I've always been a very kind of question authority, outside the box, and I didn't realize where they had everybody right there was with the food. Because from the minute you're born, you're being programmed how to be a good corporate consumer. As I go and talk about this, listen, my fan base is predominantly wrestling fans, and a lot of them couldn't be further from the spectrum of a lot of plant-based people. So as I share this message, I get a lot of pushback from people. I get a lot of just, very angry, quick, defensive comments. And I think it's because, like me, nobody wants to feel like they've been lied to their whole life, right? So they immediately want to defend themselves over something that they never really chose. It was chosen for them. Is anyone in this room, did they sit you down at 3 and ask you which animals you wanted to eat and which ones you wanted to pet? No, that choice was made for you, right? So why I'm up here is because I realize that through my journey and now having this platform of wrestling is that I actually have an effect in a voice, right? And I break a lot of myths of what people think when they think of pro wrestlers or when they think of vegans. Vegans can't have muscle. They can't be athletes. They can't be cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, Brian.
They can't be funny. Totally not funny. Well, looks. So I come to these and I really never know what I'm going to say because every place is different, and I like to get a vibe off the room. I like to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm up here, and then I like to turn it over to you guys because I like to interact with everybody, right? So I want you to start thinking about some questions you might have for me because that's where we really get the fun part. Because I can sit and talk to you for 3 hours. I may never touch any individual thing you might be thinking. So we're going to do that in a few more moments. But before we do that, I just want to talk about what we can all do individually in our own way, right? And who here in their journeys, as they share, they get that same pushback that I get. And we know pretty much the same, like 10 things people are going to hang their hats on when they start arguing with you about things. What I've learned now, it's taken me a while to figure out what I think is an effective message. To me, it's about including people, not pushing people away. And for me, I go with understanding and logic. I spent 22 years on the other side of this, not understanding the realities of both the food and not only what it's doing to me, but the environment and the effects overall. So I try to come with that and with logic. And for me, logic is dairy. Is there another species on the planet that drinks milk when they're not babies? And there's not, because milk's for babies. It's formulated for rapid growth. We double down on that, and not only do we keep drinking milk when we're not babies, we just decide to drink another species milk altogether, which again, not found anywhere else in nature. Now people's counter argument, well, we do lots of things that other animals don't do in nature. That's true. But why? Why do we drink the milk? Do we need it? I mean, listen, I realize that at some point in our history there was probably a necessity to have to drink another animal's milk. A famine, something happened where we had to figure out a way to feed babies. We're no longer we're not there anymore. We're good, and everything we know says milk formula for a baby calf doesn't really do good for an adult human, or really a baby human, but especially adult humans. So I just go with the logic on that, and we start really looking at that. We can argue, well, we'll always done it that way. Well, there's a lot of things we always did. You know, we always used to smoke on airplanes and hospitals. We always did that. You know, we always couldn't let you vote. We always used to not let the women vote. We always did that for a while. There's a lot of stuff we always did that wasn't right. You know, and so that's something I always come back with too. Just the way it is doesn't mean it's the way it should be. So understanding the logic. I'm not here, and I have copies of my book if anyone wants to get one when we're done here, but when you read it, I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life, right? I really do believe we get one of these and you should be able to do with it what you want. But I do believe in transparency. I do believe we should all have the opportunity to make informed decisions. And I use the example of big tobacco. And I talked about not long ago, most of our lifetimes here, smoking cigarettes in hospitals and airplanes. Nobody even thought twice about it. Just how it was. It's what we did. It was cool. It was in movies. It was being marketed. That's the way it was. Now, there was a lot of, pardon the pun, smoke to the fire that this stuff wasn't good for us. It's causing cancer. It's killing people. But big tobacco was able to create enough doubt for long enough. Just doubt. You didn't have to refute it. Just create doubt. And they did that for decades until finally at one point they had to go, all right, you caught us. We've been a little less than forthright about this whole cancer thing. And what they did is they had to put labels. And there's labels now right now on cigarette packs. We're not having a debate anymore if cigarettes cause cancer, right? We put that one to bed. Doesn't mean everyone stops smoking. We did change some mindsets. We don't glamorize it in movies. We don't advertise it. But it doesn't mean people quit doing it, because people should be able to live their lives the way they want, man. I believe that. And everyone who picks that pack up, they're not being fooled. They're not being fooled. They know what they're getting into. That's their choice. But when you realize that from the World Health Organization that red meats, processed meats are classified level 1 carcinogens, the same as cigarettes, that brings up an interesting question of how long the meat and the dairy industry is going to keep creating just enough doubt while we keep poisoning ourselves. And at what point they're going to have to go, all right, maybe you caught us. Maybe we haven't been completely forthright about this cancer thing. And we'll have to put those labels on all those meat products. And that's going to raise a real dilemma when parents are pulling out that bacon for breakfast, or that breakfast sausage, or these things that now we know we would never give a kid a cigarette for breakfast. But we're doing that every day with other things that we know have been linked to cancer, right? So my whole thing is, the information I've learned is why I'm now vegan, right? Like, as I kept peeling back layers and layers and layers, I couldn't keep burying my head in the sand of the truths. What it does to me physically, what it does to the environment, which we've had people talk about, what it does to the animals, what it does to our overall consciousness, the vibrations of just the planet, We're contributing to huge atrocities every day that we're turning a blind eye to, and that we're paying people to actually do for us, right? But the people in this room are not part of that movement. So I encourage you guys all to touch people's lives by just sharing the information. Don't judge, be inclusive. I encourage people to eat more of a plant-based diet. I don't tell people to go vegan. Don't set people up for failure. Go vegan's an all or nothing proposition. Once they don't do it, they're going to quit, right? I encourage people to implement more of a plant-based diet. Make small changes in your everyday lives. Be mindful. There's no end game here. There's no perfect. I realized on my way over here I had a scarf, and I started thinking, I said, I'm not sure if this scarf's vegan or not. Man, do I wear it in there and then just completely be a hypocrite? Or do I wear it in there and use it as a learning tool to say, hey, it's not about being perfect. We all have to make concessions. We can't go through life and there's always going to be some collateral damage, for lack of a better term. But being mindful and making the best decisions we can with the information we have is what it's about. And so that's my journey, and that's the message that I try to spread. I could probably keep talking for like 6 more hours, so I'm going to turn it over to questions and answers because that's the part I enjoy a lot more. Assuming anybody has a question for me. I know the first one's really tough because nobody wants to be that guy.
I think manage your diet on the road.
Managing the diet on the road when you're competing. I think anybody, if you travel for a living, if you want to eat healthy, it's hard to eat on the road, period. If you're turning your food over to restaurants, fast food joints, gas stations, a lot of times I'm getting out of shows at midnight, 1 in the morning. My options are limited, regardless of what I eat. Even if you're a carnivore, you're talking about Wendy's or Waffle House. So be prepared. I mean, it's really easy now, guys. Like it's, and I think we all know. We keep seeing these things getting bigger and bigger. We keep seeing more and more plant-based, cafes and restaurants popping up. We keep seeing more options in restaurants, in grocery stores. I moved to Clearwater in 2011, and I just moved to Vegas. But I've seen the growth in the last 5 years, and it's not hard. But I carry a cooler with me. There's always things you can carry with you, whether it's fruit. If you want to do protein bars, if you're still in the protein myth, that's cool. You can do that. I like different ethnic foods. They make a lot of chana masala pre-made packets. Listen, sometimes you got to eat convenience food, but there's a difference in convenience foods when you're making those choices. So I always try to have something with me so that I'm never really caught with my pants down and having to make a bad decision. And I think that's really for anybody who's traveling, and it's more cost effective, right? So it's a lot cheaper for me to get into a town. If I come into town, if I'm say I got a show here in Tampa, I'm gonna come in town. I'll just Google or I'll use Happy Cow. Look up vegan, find out what's around me, stop there, go grab a bunch of stuff to go, throw it in my cooler, go put it in the fridge of the hotel. I'm good for the weekend. Yeah, I spent $40, but that's gonna last me 2 days worth of meals where I can do that in one trip out to eat that night. So I mean, it's just about being prepared. Put a little time and thought into it before you leave the door. Yes. Or are you just waving at me? My favorite veggie burger. Ooh. Mmm.
What's that?
Yeah, the package ones. Well, and that's the thing, as we're probably all realizing now, there's a whole there's like a big spectrum now of plant-based foods. As it's becoming more mainstream, there's a lot more products being put to market. And so now you got to start sifting through the meatless products to figure out what's what. Like when I first transitioned to vegetarian, I was eating Morningstar Farms like every day, all the time. Well, as I learned more, I realized that wasn't a very good choice either. So we don't eat those anymore. Again, like here today, like you can go eat vegan junk food, and there's whole food, plant-based, raw food. And there's a whole spectrum. And the whole key to life's enjoying it. So if I want the real burger that kind of tastes like the burger I used to eat, maybe I'll go with the Beyond Burger. A little high in fat. Don't want to eat it all the time, but that's not bad. Yeah. But then there's a bunch of other ones that really, Dr. Prager's makes ones that are really just more whole foods, and less processed stuff. So really at the end of the day, it's the flavor profile that we put on top of it, isn't it? I always tell people, if meat was so damn tasty, why don't we just boil it and eat it? Why do you gotta sauce it and rub it and spice it? That's what you'd miss. That Big Mac, it ain't the patty, it's the special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickle, onion, it's the whole thing, right? Like I tell you, when I went to Japan, I wrestled in Japan, I learned how to order a Big Mac in Japanese without beef or tomato. And it was easier to do it in a foreign tongue over there than any time I tried to do it here in the States because they couldn't wrap their head around me not wanting the beef patty on this thing. So yeah, man, like just no, just want the Big Mac, no beef patty, just put tomato in there. Wait, so we want extra tomato? No beef, just tomato. You want the beef? No, man, I don't want the beef. And then they gotta upcharge you. Well, wait a minute. What's a special order? But what you're telling me is your tomatoes are more expensive than your beef. I actually called corporate Taco Bell once. I had to understand why every time I ordered the chalupa with rice instead of beef, I got upcharged 50 cents. And I just had to know if the rice was costing them more than their beef, which wouldn't surprise me. But it was basically like, the answer was we don't employ people smart enough to figure out which button to hit, so we just got to upcharge you on anything that's a special order. But yeah, so good question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Daughter has a question.
Yes, ma'am. My favorite fruit? Well, if anybody that's followed my wrestling career knows I'm a big fan of bananas.
Yeah.
Apple cider? I like apple cider too. When you get a little older, you put a little fireball in there. And I'm pretty sure that's vegan. I'll double check on that. But that's things too to realize, like when you start going down that road, like you realize things like red wines, a lot of red wines not vegan technically because they use, you know, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir a lot of this, but there's so many things when you start actually being aware of how your food's being made, what's in it. You know, I don't eat a lot of dairy. Hey, you're checking your labels. You realize they're putting whey in your bread, whey in your potato chips, whey in your pretzels, whey in everything because they got all this extra whey because they're making all this milk we don't need and there's a bunch of whey left over. It's a filler. We got to get rid of it, so we'll put it in everything. Things you would never think about, you know. And that's the problem. You know, it's not the stuff that we're going out and knowingly consuming. It's all the stuff that we don't know we're consuming. And if you're not reading labels, you don't know what you're putting in your body. Bananas. Yeah, they're very versatile. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about when you went vegan, you had stigma. There's people that just poo-poo you. I have a lot of family members that did that. How did you personally deal with that? Like friends that don't embrace it, family members, and you almost feel like an outsider in your own circle.
Usually I'll go up and I'll just like touch on their second or third chin. Just saying. I mean, listen, I just go with this. If you're happy and you're healthy, like if you're happy, you wake up and you're feeling good and you're happy with your life and you're healthy and you're vibrant, cool. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't know how unhealthy and unhappy and unvibrant they are. It's like being a cigarette smoker. I smoked cigarettes for 5 years. When I was 15. It was habit, right? It was around me. It's culture. I quit when I was 20, 21. But once you quit, you go back and have that drag of cigarette 2 months later, it's all over ballgame. You realize how much better I can breathe, how much better things taste, right? I think it's the same thing with going a plant-based diet. You know, so how do I combat it? Like, listen, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna take care of myself. When I come to family functions, you don't gotta worry about me. I bring my own food. You wanna try something, you're more welcome to. But don't eat all of it. Because that's what happens. Everyone just wants one bite, and before you know it, there's no bites left for the people who actually needed to eat it. But now my sister and her husband are both vegan. My brother's vegan. I can't get my mom, she's, but just probably by example. I'm not pushing on you. But when you're eating that, and I'm eating this, and mine looks good, and it smells good, it tastes good, and I'm looking good, and I'm 40 years old, and my sister's 5 years younger, looks 10 years older. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know. But at the end of the day, we all have to make that commitment. We have to make the decision that's our priority now. And I can't make that decision for anybody else. I can just share the information. I can love them. I can encourage them. But they have to put the work in. They got to make that commitment. And so I just try to make it easy by leading by example, you know? Thank you. Yes, sir.
I want to bring this little wrestling argument to get back to the veganism. You're from a house of hardcore. I know you got food out. I don't know how many other people watch. You got food out of the building. I really loved it. I just really loved that feeling it was. Like I said, I'm here to meet you and talk to you as a vegan as much as I call your friends. I'm an even bigger fan of you as a vegan. I wanted to ask you, live on the West Coast now. Are you following Prop 12 and that came on the ballot in California? You know, and then how excited are you and how much do you think that's going to do with battling? You know, or, I don't know, better rights for animals?
I've seen a little bit scrolling through the Instagram. I'll be honest, I'm not super educated on it. But listen, the reality is we all have our little pieces of this puzzle that we get to go and try to put together and reach out. And so, I went to the Mercy for Animals Gala, the fundraiser I had out recently, and my message really is being a professional athlete and entertainer. I talk about that and the food, and that's really kind of my area. Listen, I'm not a pet person. I'm just gonna say this, why? Because I travel all the time, and I'd love to have pets, but it's not conducive to our lifestyle. But I don't have to be a pet person to have respect for all other living creatures, and so there's a lot of pet people that are just cute pet people, the furry ones, we like those. But oh my God, you see what they're doing in China? Oh, those bastards. Oh, look what they're doing to the dogs in China. I can't believe it. Would you pass me the bacon?
Just sign the petition.
Wait, okay, I thought I got disconnected. I thought I heard someone's feelings there. some butcher behind me, like, I got his mic. So, there was another part to your question besides the Prop 12.
That was it. No, I think mostly, Prop 12 and it's more about cage space for animals. And California, as we know, is the world's fifth largest economy. And now they're being more careful about importing, animal products from other states.
Sure.
So it's not perfect, but it feels like it's a step in the right direction.
A bunch of small steps in the right direction over time add up to some pretty big movements. And again, I've seen it in the last 5 years just building, and it's becoming more accepted mainstream because, again, when you go with logic and understanding, it's really hard to argue against logic. Now, if you just tell me, and I always go this to people, like, could you go and put that food on your plate yourself? Could you go make that and could you go produce and put that on your plate yourself? Listen, if you're one of those cats that grew up, again, I got some friends in the wrestling business, the Briscoes, chicken farmers, all right? And that's what they do for a living. They've been completely, they're so numb to that. Like, I'm not talking to those guys. I'm never gonna get through to those dudes. I can respect that we're different. I can respect that that's their life and that's a whole different upbringing. But there's a lot of people that aren't those guys. That if they had to, when they're faced with realities, if they had to go put that on their plate, they couldn't do it. They just keep putting their head in the sand. And those are the ones that if we just keep hitting them with reality, we keep hitting them with understanding and logic, eventually their conscious a lot of times gets the best of them. They start taking those steps themselves,
You look at the other wrestlers that use on the former standing roads and all the more stuck in this. And then they're regular guys. How do they interact with you? They school you and anything like that?
what's a performance enhancing? Bring me back to that whole discussion. In baseball, obviously it's a big deal, but I say LASIK's pretty performance enhancing. So you can have laser surgery on your eyes, but if you take any other, supplements, that's cheating. I had an interesting debate with one of my fellow wrestlers who's all natural. He says, I don't take anything, all natural bodybuilder. And I said, let me ask you this. I said, just for argument's sake, I said, you eat a lot of meat, which is being injected with hormones and steroids and all a bunch of stuff. So by proxy, how clean are you? Because if I don't eat any of that stuff, if I were to take a little testosterone therapy, who's really clean and who's not clean? I don't know. I mean, it's a debate because if you are what you eat and you're eating a bunch of these things, again, but again, I'm not here to help you all live their life. And I'm not some guy that's like straight edge, clean living. I'm about balance. I like to have some fun. I like to have some cocktails. I like to, but my balance is I don't try to poison myself with the food, right? So I can maybe do it with some more fun stuff from time to time. Within reason when you're an adult, of course. With parental supervision. Yes, sir.
What's your typical breakfast?
Typical breakfast. I'm a big fan of smoothies, the Vitamix. I'm a big Vitamix proponent, the Cadillac of blenders. What sold me on that was when I put a raw sweet potato in there, and I put a raw sweet potato with some vanilla protein powder and some maple syrup and some pecans and some cinnamon, and it blended it right up into a shake. And that was when I was amazed. So usually for breakfast, I like to get a lot of nutrients in me right away. I have a hard time keeping size on, so that's my struggle. I'm a smoothie guy with some bananas. I usually do some oats, some hemp seeds, maybe a little moringa powder, frozen blueberries, kale, maybe throw a little plant-based protein in there if I'm feeling up to it. And I just kind of blend that all up and just get a lot of, carbs, some good fats, maybe throw some different nuts or things like that in there. So it can be hard to eat enough calories for someone like me who needs to constantly be eating to keep my size on. So one easy way to do that is to drink a couple of my meals a day if I need to. And for parents too, I would say that a good way to hide the vegetables sometimes for the kids is like frozen kale and frozen spinach into a smoothie with blueberries and other fruits and stuff. They're not gonna know what's in there, and it's gonna be delicious. And that's a good way to kind of hide that stuff in there too. Are there any other vegan wrestlers? Nope, I'm the only one. No, just kidding. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit, and it's back when I kind of started this journey, I was that guy. I was like, hey guys, check out these, here, try these chicken nuggets. You know, everybody over at the house and they're really eating the chicken nuggets. I'm like, that's not even real chicken, guys. You know, but, or I was always like, there's the one box of, like, there's catering and then there's the one box of salad for me, you know. But now fast forward, there's, you know, we just did an event not long ago and there was about 6 of us that they all had to get catering for. And the funny thing was is they got a separate vegan catering because of course they couldn't just all eat. Hey, we've got this good connection here in Toronto. We can get non-GMO, local, organic, plant-based. We'll get it catered. It'll be all delicious here. And if you guys want, you guys could probably just source some like dead carcass on the side for your protein. Like it'd be cool. But like, well, we're not sure we want to do that because everyone's just so used to. Okay, cool. You guys do the conventional. You do the conventional food, and then we'll just get this little vegan setup over here for the vegans. Well, so of course what happens is everyone walks in and they start doing this, like,
Okay.
what's this over here? Well, they're over there, they got the frozen vegetables, the iceberg lettuce salad, the cheese on it, some kind of stew or something. And a bunch of desserts, of course. But to a man, and every person walked in, they're looking at the choice, and of course they're all, well, we just try a little bit of this. But 50 people try a little bit of food for 6, you know what happens? It's gone. So literally at that point, I just had to stand guard. I was just like, yo, like the same for you. Move on. There's 4 more people that eat, you know. But then it's just breaking the mindset, you know, and it's so hard to do because, again, we're creatures of habit. And it's something that we've been doing for our whole life and being told. And we realize the amount of money and resources that are spent to keep you hooked to the corporate teat. Because once you've let go of that, once you get smart and you let go of that, you're no longer, they don't get you back, right? You're smart to the game, so you're not going to use me to make your money by keeping me sick and unhappy and unsafe. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Did you read my book? Okay. Are you trying to help me on some of these illegal activities I talk about in my book? Some of the timeline between the wrestling stuff. So I connected with I was a delivery driver for pizzas in college, and then also I worked at a liquor store. We did deliveries there too, which was awesome. Liquor delivery, and I went to school in Winona, Minnesota, which is on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And so after a few years, I just realized it wasn't for me, and I found out a friend of mine who I worked for at the pizza place was a guy who supplied other kind of greens in town, and so I started kind of working with him a little bit, and really just my thing was cool, like exploring. So through that connection, these guys that we met, they made blown glass. They made custom glass pieces for bands and things of that sort. So I'd go out and I would go with the hype guy, and we hit the road. And again, I'm a Midwest kid, so now I'm out in Flagstaff, Arizona, Prescott, Arizona. I'm hitting different parts of Texas and California, and I'm meeting lots of different interesting people who have completely different thought processes than I grew up around. And really, that was like maybe a year. It was just like a year in my life, but it was really where I had to figure out who I was and like what I wanted to do. And so I didn't really know those things, but I knew I was having a great time. Sleep on this guy's couch. We get up. We party favors. Go hit the lake. Then go take a nap, and then go hit the club and rinse and repeat. Not a real bright future. And I was actually packed up to move out to Lake Havasu when one of my best friends called me up, my childhood best friend, known since 2nd grade, and he said, "Hey, I'm in Minneapolis. I'm trained to be a wrestler." And it blew my mind. What do you mean? This was like pre-Google and stuff, guys. You couldn't just type anything in and have it all right there. And so it was the idea of just finding a wrestling school or that people trained you to be a wrestler just didn't really compute. So I had to go check it out, and I drove 2 hours, and I saw this ring set up in this little garage, and I just kind of immediately knew, like, this is what I was supposed to do. So I looked at these guys. There were a couple guys in the ring. I was like, man, these guys are terrible. Like, I'd be so much better than these guys. And I was right. Yeah. And I'm very modest too, which is one of my best qualities. It's like my fourth best quality, but it's one of the top 5. But yeah, and so that was really, I had my stuff packed up. Instead of moving out west, I moved up on his couch 2 weeks later, and I started that journey. And I never looked back. It never felt like work, right? It was, I get to do something really silly for a living, guys. I mean, if you think about it, like, so pro wrestling's, I think, a really misunderstood art form. I'm not gonna get hammered this too much, but it's like a live action fight scene, right? And yes, the end of the scene we may know, and sometimes it changes because things happen. But you know, I think it's the most real form of entertainment there is, right? Like, I don't get to do cut and like get a stunt double in there for something I don't want to do. You know, we don't have a bunch of fancy camera angles to, you know, I've done stage fighting. It's a whole different deal where you get to miss by 6 inches, you know.
Yeah.
So it's this physical art form that really tells stories of good versus evil. And I'm so lucky that this silly thing that I got to do that, you know, I was a huge fan of as a kid has now allowed me this platform to affect your life, right? Rick?
Yes.
Rick came up to me today. He bought my book. He's been a fan of mine for like 15 years. But big reason why he's plant-based and vegan. I get messages all the time by people who, again, this one person's lost 100 pounds. You know, read my book, gone plant-based, 100 pounds off, 200 pounds off 4 medications. So for every ignorant comment I get, oh, go eat steak with bacon. Like for every like 6 of those, you know, if I get one person saying, hey, you changed my life, you made me think and look at things differently, and I've made some changes, that's what I'm here for. Like, you know, I got some pretty thick skin. I've got a pretty sharp, quick forked tongue. So I think maybe my role is to be one of those people that, you know, ushers the change a little uncomfortably by just kind of not sugarcoating it. And white sugar also not vegan. Who would have thought? Crazy. Let's go back here, the man with the camera.
Yeah, so what do you think would be a heel or a baby face?
I just like to be myself. And being myself, I'm very polarizing. You either like me or you really don't. And I'm okay with that. In my experience, the people who really don't like me aren't the kind of people that I want to like me. It's kind of like, if those people like me, I might have to question myself. Yeah. I'm good with that. Nobody else. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Have I made different wrestlers go vegan? So one time we had a carrot on a pole match, and no, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. I think, I don't know that I made them. I don't make anybody go vegan. I think I've definitely helped open some eyes, and people see that you can abstain from eating animals and animal products, and you can still lift weights and have muscles and be an athlete and do all those things. And so when people realize, man, I can accomplish all the things I'm trying to accomplish, and I can do it with, you know, less health issues, contributing to less destruction, whether it's the environment or just with the, you know, with the animals. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? So, have you helped anybody go vegan? Have you made anybody vegan yet? Any of your friends? Yeah, who? Who'd you make go vegan? Oh, you haven't signed up for this. You're speaking today. It's one thing I bring up because people, you know, say to me a lot of times, being vegan is really extreme, which is funny when you think about where our food really comes from. That kind of extreme, but veganism it's extreme because we're talking about 0 animal products 100% of the time, and those numbers are extremes. 0 and 100 are extremes, and so I'm not going to debate that with people. But what I usually counter them with is I ask them when's the last meal they had that didn't have meat, dairy, or eggs attached. And for a lot of people, before they flip that switch, the answer is they can't remember. They look and they start thinking back, well, I had some I had cheese on it. I had eggs. They literally can't think of a meal they've had that didn't have meat, dairy, or eggs attached to it. So then I ask the question, well, but what about your extreme? Why is the extreme that we've been raised in to consume animal products every meal 100% of the time, every meal? Why is that extreme okay? Why is mine so weird, but the one that we've been raised in isn't weird when we look around and we see what the realities of it are, right? So I don't challenge people to come to my extreme. I just challenge them to get off their extreme, and the more they start walking towards that center of plant-based lifestyle, they see the results. Again, I don't need to shove anybody in the pool before they know if they can swim or if the water's nice. I encourage people to just sit down and dip their toe in a little bit. I believe enough in what we're doing, but if you just put your toe in the water, you feel it, it's going to feel nice. You're going to start seeing some results. You're going to slide in yourself. You'll be swimming before you know it. And so that's really the approach I try to take. Yes, sir.
Big documentary coming out called Game Changer.
Yes.
Are you involved with that?
I'm not. No. Yeah, familiar with a lot of people in there. So maybe Game Changers too. That just save something for the sequel. You know, I want to get it all the way the first go around. I got about maybe 10 more minutes or so. If we got a few more questions, yes. Have you ever really looked at a skillet full of like thawed chicken breasts? Yeah, I mean, here's what I think. Like, even going back to that eight-year-old kid feeding the grass and then eating the brats and making that connection, I just think there was something always off-putting about the idea of eating another animal, right? Like, if it's so in our human nature, how come like when we drive by roadkill, we don't just like pull over and salivate and like throw it in the back and eat it? Or how come we go to the zoo, we just can't stop drooling because, oh my God, look at all this meat everywhere, right? So the idea when you think about it, again, if you had to go get it yourself, I remember the first time I went fishing as a kid, 4 or 5 years old. I didn't like it. I like had this fish, I'm like, this fish doesn't look like it's having much fun. Which in turn means I'm not having much fun here. You know, can I just sit in the boat and not put the hook in the water? Is that cool? Like, I just hang out with y'all, right? I mean, how would you like that? Or just sit in your house, just like chilling, you're a little hungry, you know, someone like dangling some piece of pie, vegan pie, of course, cherry pie, and you're like, oh, I love some pie. You go to eat it, and all of a sudden there's a hook in your mouth. Yanks you out of your window. Like, what the hell's going on? Then looks at you, he's like, he's kind of small. Just throws me back in my house. Like, Jesus, that's awful. So I think when I just thought about it, just the idea just that it wasn't appetizing. So when I finally got to the point where all these seeds been planted, and I'm like, well, I pay my own bills, I make my own choices. I can have dessert whether I eat dinner or not. And I can decide what that dinner's gonna be. And I just think it was all those little seeds just kind of at once. Just I was looking at them chicken breasts and just going, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm done. And then again, you know, 7 years ago, watching Forks Over Knives, which if no one's seen that documentary, I highly recommend it. That was the thing that basically made me kick the rest of the dairy and the eggs. And at that point, I was just holding on to some of those Wisconsin thought processes of string cheese and, you know, I need whey protein and all these things. So really the transition wasn't a big shock. It was just getting some plant-based protein powders, getting rid of a few of those products. Tofu scrambles instead of, you know, eggs. And, but yeah, that documentary, obviously, I'm sure most people have seen it, but Forks Over Knives, eating over surgery, guys, right? Like, we can cure ourselves with the food. I know, like, you know, the healthcare industry doesn't want you to know that because they don't make money on healthy people. They make money on sick people, right? And I actually just went and spoke with the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine in D.C., and that's the thing that I'm starting to realize. Like, I know that most parents don't willfully try to make their kids sick. They just haven't been taught, right? Again, Adrian Peterson, football player a few years back, got in a lot of trouble because he disciplined his kid with a switch, and there was a huge debate on disciplining kids and child abuse, and if this guy should lose his job and he should never play football again. And I'm not going to comment on that other than to say, but what about the parent who gives their kid type 2 diabetes by 13? Like, that's a life sentence. That's some child abuse. Like, listen, that mark on the kid's butt, it's going to go away, and I'm not going to say it's right or wrong or condone it, but why do we talk about those type of abuses, setting kids up for that type of life? Because again, parents aren't willfully doing it. And I'm realizing now that doctors are in the same boat. Doctors are starting to realize that they're being lied to their 4 years of school. First of all, they're only spending 2.5 weeks learning about medicine, or, you know, food and medicine. But even what they're learning isn't really teaching them. But I think our next speaker is going to talk a whole lot about that, so I'm not going to delve in that too much. But I will say this personal story. My mom had high cholesterol. Cholesterol was getting a little high, so she went to the doctor. And the doctor said, well, let's try to make some changes to your diet and come back in a couple months, and if the numbers aren't better, we'll give you a pill, get you on the pill. And I said, well, Ma, what advice did she give you? And the advice was to eat more fruits and vegetables, you know, get some more exercise, and, you know, cut back on the red meat, you know, and just really, you know, maybe just chicken and turkey and fish. And I said to my mom, cool, so then you're gonna go back and then go on that pill in a few months, right? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, think of it like this, Ma. If you went to a doctor and you had a tumor on your lung, they thought maybe you had lung cancer. And the doctor said, well, you might have lung cancer. We want to monitor this for a month or so. In the meantime, I would, eat some more fruits and vegetables and get some exercise. And I'd really cut back on the Marb Reds and maybe just smoke Marb Lights. Or maybe some Marb Ultralights would be good. You'd probably look at that doctor like they're insane, right? But yet, telling someone to just eat a little cholesterol when they have a cholesterol issue is what the doctor's advice was. And I don't think it was a malicious doctor. I think that doctor's been misled too, just like a lot of us all have been. And so, we go to our doctors for the advice that they're not ever been given. And that's the thing that we're starting to realize too. So we can all educate our doctors a little bit when we go in there. When I had my EKG done, when I was hired with WWE, they do a whole battery of tests. And my blood pressure is usually always the lowest in the room when we're doing different commissions tests. But they did an actual EKG, and the cardiologist said, man, he's like, listen, he's like, there's a natural thickening of the heart walls in most males. It's just natural. He said, yours looks like high schoolers. And I said, well, I stopped eating meat 18 years ago. He said, that's probably why. So I like to think the things that I've started doing not only are helping me today, but in the future, 10, 20, 30 years from now, so I'm not waiting until I'm behind the 8 ball to start trying to make some changes. Yes, sir. The most interesting one I did was actually out in Vegas at the Air Force Base out there. They had me come to school and talk, and it was a lot of kids, and I had to alter my demeanor a little bit. So I don't talk. I would like to do that more often, but I think really the parents are where it's at, right? Because they're the big influence, and my influence to kids, and I'll tell this funny story, and I'll probably have to start wrapping this up. Again, my bedside manner sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired, which is good for what I do for a living. But I was signing autographs in a smaller town in the South. We do a lot of autograph signings, and in certain, especially a lot of rural areas, what I'm seeing is a lot of 8, 10, 12-year-old kids who are already being set up for failure, they're already being set up to be sick and unhealthy. And their parents look like they're grown-up versions of their son or their daughter. And so as I'm sitting behind her and I'm signing autographs, and understand that, yes, I'm a bad guy.
Sometimes.
So the kid walks up with his dad, and the kid's probably about 30 pounds overweight. He's 8 years old, probably good 30 pounds overweight already. Dad's probably doubled that. And kid's eating some milk duds. And the dad, old son, like, show some respect to the man and offer him some of your milk duds. And the kid, I'm sorry, would you like some? And I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, but I can't eat those. I said, those really aren't good for you. And I got to tell you, I said, kids your age really shouldn't be in your shape. But that's not your fault. That's your dad's fault.
Oh, no. Big mistake.
And Dad didn't know what to think.
Oh, boy.
But that's the reality, right? And it's really not Dad's fault either. And so when I say we call it understanding and logic, understand, like, I don't think I'm better than anybody. I think I've just found better information. I've made better choices because of it. And as we all go about in our own journeys, if we can come with that mindset and understand that we were all on the other side of that, and the parents not trying to make their kids sick, the doctor's not trying to keep you sick. So that's for me, it's important because I can be an angry fella. But when I remind myself of that, I don't get so much angry as much as I want to help these people. I want to bring them in. I'm not shaking my finger at them. And so that's important as we spread the message, because we know it's just as easy to push people away in this as it is to bring them in. It's all in how we address this. And so I'll take one last question. If there's any last question, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Good. Oh, wait. Okay, yes. Good. Well, listen, I think most people just don't pay attention to what they eat, period. So the minute you implement any type of diet and you actually just start paying attention and restricting or doing something, you're going to see a change. Whether that's a sustainable change or whether there's actual, side effects to that change is the debate. But most people aren't paying attention to anything, portion sizes, when they eat, how much they eat, when they don't eat. A lot of people, they're gaining weight because they're under eating, they're not realizing that. So anytime you decide to take some actual interest in what you're doing, I think you're going to see results. So that's my thought process on any kind of diet. And I think our next speaker will be able to talk about that even more so because she's an actual doctor. So I want to thank you guys for your time today. Thank you for not throwing anything at me. I'll be over there with some books to sign. If you want to come and chat, I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, make sure.